Yes, there's been a lot of talk about the election, and they pretty much laid out what they expect Donald Trump's response to be. Based on how he already moves as a norm. So, and also the polling. You know, when the polls are tight, um, the polls were tight last time. They were pretty tight, um, but Donald Trump lost, and that's what's pretty much you would expect the second time around. Um, and that his performance is far weaker than it was the last election cycle. Um, he basically has been a nut all over the place. If you could say that about Donald Trump, he is a nut, but this time he's been shitting in his pants and you know, he's just been going all out and he is going to go all out. And this is what is predicted, a continuation, a extension of what his norm is, because that's just who he is. Now, what's up, Donnie? Yeah. And so they're expecting that Trump is going to go all out. Anything goes. Anything goes. They're expecting election violence. They're expecting it at certain, at some random poll shooting. The FBI said this. They said they're on guard. They're expecting for there to be fraud, for people, inside who count not count the votes, but for example, there was one woman who's just been arrested for removing a voting box out of a community. Why the hell she would do that is crazy because obviously you're going to be caught. Um, That's already happened this cycle just a week ago. Um, they also expect Donald Trump to claim that he won the election. They expect there to be violence on September 6th also. So they expect all of the above this time around. And yeah, so let's get into a couple of interviews. I missed the news cycle. I did see Kamala. We saw Kamala yesterday. That was a great speech, but I really didn't get a chance to cover the news cycle because there are random events going around. So let's check it out.
I think we all remember how jarring it was to watch J.D. Vance stand on a national debate stage and refuse to say that Donald Trump lost the 2020 election. Well, if you thought that was bad and awkward to watch, get a load of this.
Do you believe he lost the 2020 election?
I think there's an obsession here with focusing on 2020. I'm much more worried about what happened after 2020.
Yes or no?
Okay.
Did Donald Trump lose the 2020 election?
Let me ask you a question. Is it okay that big technology companies censored the Hunter Biden laptop story, which independent analysis have said it cost Donald Trump millions of votes?
Senator Vance, I'm going to ask you again. Did Donald Trump lose the 2020 election?
Did you hear what he just said? He's talking about another conspiracy theory. He's asked a basic question and he's talking about moving forward and he's talking about Hunter Biden. And she's asking him about the election. I mean, so what is going on here. They obviously have discussed this, right? And even if they have flip-flopped, but changed their minds here and there along the scene, nobody knows what to say publicly because in reality, they pretty much have been told already that Trump is going to deny it. They have an idea behind the scenes that Trump is going to deny the election and claim that he is the winner. So this dude doesn't know how to answer that question. And he's been out there plenty of times before where Trump has flip-flopped. But on this one, he's smart enough to know, you know what? I'm just not going to say anything.
Is it okay that big technology companies censored the Hunter Biden laptop story, which independent analysis have said it cost Donald Trump millions of votes?
Senator Vance, again.
That's just a cold lie. You can't. If there was something there, it would be found, period. If there was something there, it would be found. Something that is a threat to the United States of America, something that involves foreign government, some wrongdoing, it would be found. That's what they do all the time, no matter what party it is. You might have some persons who want to, negotiate a way around it. Like, for example, if they find something that could be a threat, releasing the information to the public, then they might withhold it until it's no longer a threat to the government or the people of the government, the citizens. But if he commits a crime, they're not going to just hide it. There's no reason to hide it. Crimes happen. And as you see, people go to jail, Democratic, Republican, all the time for keeping secrets,
Did Donald Trump lose the 2020 election?
Did big technology companies censor a story that independent studies have suggested would have cost Trump millions of votes? I think that's the question.
Did they censor a story? So he's telling you flat off the bat, it's not necessarily a fact. It's just a story. What kind of story? Disinformation? You see? Disinformation? That is so weird. He didn't even say that. In other words, you can just make up a story, and the fact that someone doesn't run the story because it's called disinformation, he wants to know about that, all because he's asked, what's up with Trump?
Question.
I'm going to ask you again. Did Donald Trump lose the 2020
And I've answered
election?
your question with another question. You answer my question and I'll answer yours.
Every time he dodged that question, got a little spicy and edgy there. We got another reminder of just how concerned we should be as we approach another election in just 3 weeks, because just a dry run for what they intend to do this time around. Loses, they'll once again say he won, obviously, and they will do everything in their power to invalidate a result they don't like. And if new comments from J.D. Vance yesterday about the transfer of power are any indication, they will try to gaslight us every step of the way.
Look, this is very simple. Yes, there was a riot at the Capitol on January the 6th, but there was still a peaceful transfer of power in this country, and that is.
It wasn't a peaceful. That was violence. People died as a result of what happened on September 6th. Police officers died. They smashed, damaged property. They kicked their way in. And if you did the same thing to this man's home, he would not call it peaceful. If you did the same thing to Donald Trump's home, they would lock you up and call it violence. They would call it an attack. They would say you're trying to kill the president. There was people outside trying to get Mike Pence, saying hang Mike Pence and kill Nancy Pelosi. And they, damn near did, essentially.
Always going to happen. Donald Trump's committed to it, and so am I. This is very simple. Yes, there was a riot at the Capitol on January the 6th, but there was still a peaceful transfer of power in this country, and that is always going to happen. Donald Trump's committed to it, and so.
Okay.
Totally peaceful. Everyone.
I mean, his wording, he's talking about Donald Trump. He said Donald Trump is committed to a peaceful transfer of power. How do you know? How do you know? What's the indication of that?
Donald Trump's committed to it, and so am I.
So where's the indication of that?
Totally peaceful, everyone, except for the whole violent coup at the Capitol that he failed to really acknowledge. Joining me now is former acting U.S. Solicitor General Neil Katyal, friend of the show, one of the favorites. It's great to see you. So let me just start here. I mean, those remarks from J.D. Vance are chilling over and over again, including saying there was a peaceful transfer of power. The vice president doesn't exactly have a technical impact in terms of certifying the election. But what are you, as you look at the potential here, what are you worried he could do?
Well, I think Vance is a barometer for the Republican Party. And you know me, I'm normally a voice of calm, and I'm here not as a voice of calm today. I think that what the vice president said, what Donald Trump has said, what members of the Republican Party have said leads me to think there is a coming massive crisis that's going to occur on November 5th with the election, in which even if Kamala Harris wins the election, and wins those battleground states, the Trump team is going to declare victory with J.D. Vance at his side.
Yep.
And they will pressure courts, they will pressure state legislatures, state governors, and they'll throw out the popular vote and get this election through shenanigan.
Let's just break down each of the components that could have an impact here. I mean, Mike Johnson.
So if you think your vote doesn't count, you know, I encountered a brother here the other day, and don't get me wrong, I understand it. I'm talking about a brother from the U.S. And I asked him, did he register to vote? And he said, oh, you know, he gave some reasoning why he didn't. He didn't believe it makes a difference. That was his reasoning. He doesn't believe it makes a difference. Now, if following the news cycle, if you're just listening barely, right? Everyone in the Democratic Party has told you your vote makes a difference. And it can be the difference, one vote, between who gets in office and who doesn't. This is what the Democrats have been saying the entire election cycle. Now, this brother, first time that a woman or a woman of non-color has ever been up for the presidency, you know, been nominated by the party and gone this far, right? It's the first time a woman might actually become the president in reality outside of Hillary Clinton. You see, people complained about Hillary Clinton, how they didn't like Hillary Clinton. And really, it wasn't Hillary Clinton they didn't like. That wasn't it. Because this time around, a lot of those people are still, now there's Kamala Harris, who's a totally different person, different part of the country, different backstory, and they don't like her for some reason. So Barack Obama was right. There's misogyny there, right? And I'm just starting to think, you know, damn, is the brother that told me a misogynist? It doesn't matter. Well, what if you were running for president? Would it matter? What if you wanted to be the coach in the football team? Would it matter how many people said, yeah, this guy's a good dude, man. He's a good coach. It matters. I'll let you know, I'll let you know who I choose on Monday. You know, these kind of things. And you got to think a brother would say this about, I'm not dissing him. Don't get me wrong, because I understand the pessimism, but you have to get beyond that. You got to get beyond your own self-pessimism and join everybody else in change. Join everybody else in civic responsibility. Otherwise, you know, you're saying that no one should help you. That's what you're saying. And I'm the type of person that's like, damn, if you can't even register to vote, then I really hope you don't need my help later for something serious, because I'm going to be like, well, why should I help this person with their problem when they wouldn't even help everybody with their vote? You know what I'm saying? Like, don't ask me for nothing. If that's the answer you got, fine. But don't bother me with that if you're not voting, because your vote definitely counts. And if it ever counted before, if it ever counted for your ancestors one day, if anyone ever vouching for you, that's all your vote is a vouch. If anyone ever vouched for you in your life, then this time around, your vote counts. But listen to the game plan.
The current Speaker of the House played a role in 2020. No one knew who he was at the time. There is the Electoral Reform Act, which has been passed, but it's imperfect. What could he and others who are Trump acolytes do?
Okay, so first of all, remember in 2020, Biden won 300 to 232. So electoral college votes. So when Trump challenged in various states, he had to run the table and win a bunch of states. He couldn't just win one. Right now, as polls you were showing from at the top of the show showed, you know, it may come down to one state. So Trump only needs to win and flip one place after November 5th in order to have an outsized impact on the election. Now, he can do that, as you're suggesting, in the United States Congress, because on January 6th, they are to count the votes. January 6th, 2025, not 2021.
You hear that? So they're going to be putting pressure. They're going to choose. You know, they don't have many possibilities. It's not many states they can get away with this in. Obviously, they can't. You know, some of the fraud that's going to go on, the voter intimidation primarily that's going to go on, is going to go on in states that could be Trumpish. You see what I mean? It's going to be toss-up states. It's not going to be the rest of the states where everybody knows the turnout is so great. No, that wouldn't be a real move. So they're going to try to do election intimidation or election fraud in one of these states. And it may not even be on the state level. He may try to pressure someone in the Senate, right, to make a move, a Republican Senate. They may try to go on the floor and speak and introduce something there from one of these toss-up states. You got to understand, because anybody who breaks the law this time, senator or not, is going to jail. The federal government has said this. If you are involved in any form of election fraud, intimidation, they will be seeking, in this particular case, this year, because what happened last year, any kind of violence, any type of fraud, any type of intimidation, they will be seeking the maximum penalties because they see this as a serious threat to the United States of America. So let's listen. He's about to tell you the most likely move that they will make, or at the very least, at the very end, if he can't get some fraud on the ground going.
There's count the vote. Do that as you're suggesting in states. So Trump only needs to win and flip one place after November 5th in order to have an outsized impact on the election. Now, he can do that, as you're suggesting, in the United States Congress, because on January 6th, they are to count the votes. January 6th, 2025, not 2021. There's count the votes. And yes, Congress has passed a new law called the Electoral Count Act of 2022, which is to restrict the types of objections Congress can make. But nonetheless, there's a lot of ambiguity in the law. And of course, the Republicans have shown they don't really care about the law. They want power. And so if a majority of the House or the Senate say, hey, we don't trust this Michigan vote, or we don't like what happened in Pennsylvania, we don't think it's right, there was fraud, they can attempt to throw out that state altogether and swing the election by themselves and take the vote away from you and me, the American people. And that's what we should be thinking about.
Yeah,
right
this
now.
is. I wanted to talk to you about all of this because I think it's important to know what to watch for. So the other challenge, one of the other challenges, is the state legislatures, right?
Together and swing the election by themselves. They don't really care about the law. They care about raw power. And so if a simple majority of the House or the Senate say, hey, we don't trust this Michigan vote, or we don't like what happened in Pennsylvania, we don't think it's right, there was fraud, they can attempt to throw out that state altogether and swing the election by themselves and take the vote away from you and me, the American people. And that's what we should be thinking about.
Yeah,
this is they have to get a majority of senators or congressional people to start the conversation. The conversation will just delay. You see what I mean? It would just delay something. It could change the outcome at the most extreme, but it's likely that it would just delay. Now, here's why I say that. And here's what is likely to happen if that is the case. Those billionaires that are behind Trump are going to be throwing around a lot of money. They're going to be trying to do anything to sway any individual, right, to become part of some sort of majority. The persons that would otherwise, the soft victims, the people that could change their mind somehow and go along with some scam like this. But again, the FBI is going to be watching every step of the way because that is their job, and they understand that right now the likeliness of voter intimidation, voter suppression, voter fraud, or some other illegalities. And fraud is giving people money behind the scenes, promising people things behind the scenes, getting people to do things that they already state is not right, but they change their mind because you give them a gift. That is illegal. You see, it's likely that that is the route that they will go, and that will cause a delay. The reason why I say it's not likely to work is because you got to get a simple majority. The Democrats, all Republicans are not for Trump. You see, So how are you going to get that simple majority? You're going to have to twist and twist and twist a whole lot of arms like you never twisted before. But these people are out for delay and they're out for violence, because in all of these possibilities, it is very slim chance that Trump can navigate through them and come out winning. You see, but there's still a slim chance. You see. So people need to be on guard. People need to vote, because the more people that vote, the more the message is made clear. And then you still got the Supreme Court. See, if they can slow it down and even have a conversation to challenge it, then someone else is going to make a side move. The Trump party or the Trump stirs, whoever they are, they're going to file something in courts, right? And they're going to try to delay that way. It's all about delay, violence. And if it gets into the courts, that's another matter. So the more people vote, the less likely it is that any of that can work. Don't believe the polls. The polls are saying it's a tight race. That may make you think that your vote doesn't count, but the polls can be off. It may not be as tight as you think, but at the same time, it could be less than what you think. We all know that Trump looks like a damn fool, and he's a criminal running for office. So there's criminal things coming. But don't sit back and think that your vote doesn't have an impact in this situation. Every vote is needed. Every single vote is needed. And you need to go out in the streets and stick your chest out too when it comes to registering to vote and asking people to register to vote. You don't have to tell people who to vote for, but let people know that their vote counts. It's their tax dollars, just like the courts count in your life, just like those taxes count, just like the landlord counts. And if you don't have a landlord, then you got the tax man, the land tax man, just like they count, just like the reconstruction plan counts, because you're going to need a new roof on your house, right? At least people that have family homes that don't have a lot of money will. All these things count. So the least you could do is understand how your vote counts and understand the necessity in it. Hold on, let me see here, Donnie. BB, can you give your perspective on Obama recent comments? I haven't had the time to look for myself. He spoke to the media is calling it Obama speaking to black men. I did a commentary on that earlier, but like a few days ago. But mine is this: I don't see anything he said wrong. And in fact, I think the media, they need a headline, so they report it in a funny. But don't, like they say, don't judge the book by its cover. Don't judge it by the media headline. His own words. His words were, he was speaking to all men, and then he spoke to a segment of black men. And I think what he said is very accurate. I thought his words were very polite and also detailed. I think Obama really understands what's going on in the minds of black men and is asking them to, we could review his words again, actually, because they're so detailed. I don't want to skew anything that he said. But in my view, I thought it was right on point. Although I know Barack Obama is one of the people like Kamala that, when these type of people run for office, they bear the burden of all of the shade, the racist shade committee, the misogynist, and with Kamala's case, it's the misogynist and racist shade committee. Like, these are the types of candidates that, because they're running for offices, big offices, they get all the shade from the Republican Party, which is largely tropes, racist tropes. With Obama, you don't come from here. Are you American? I don't know if you're American. Same thing they try to run on Kamala Harris. Instead of asking voters to focus on their words, their content, and their record, and the bills that they signed specifically. What are the bills? You could all go and find out the bills that Obama asked Congress to work on and then signed. after they were passed through the legislator onto him. You could all go look at the bills that Kamala Harris in the Senate presided over, right, herself, that got to Biden's desk. We went over that yesterday, and he signed. You can all go over those. Those are a part of her record, and those are part of the things that when they're speaking on them, they probably know more about them than anyone else, because they know the yays and they know the nays, and they listen to both sides of the argumentation. Now, I would challenge the MAGA people, the black MAGA people, the black men that are upset, which is a small percent. And by the way, congratulations to the black men that get it, because more of us by percentage get what Obama was saying than even white men. He said this: who took care of us when we were young? Who were our teachers? Right? You know, these kind of things. And now this is the time to show how much you appreciate that. You know, if it was good enough for this person to raise you, if it was, you know, a lot of people are saying they're single, you know, raised by their mom. If they were good enough to be taught to have a teacher, right, to be your teacher, a woman, right, then right now is how you show her that, right? And he said the same thing basically about men in general. And more black men get that message than white men in the United States of America. Why is that? Because only 13% of black men to 15% don't get that message. With white men, it's much higher. So I want to congratulate black men, actually. So don't internalize what Obama said. Don't take it as a strike. If you know what they say, a hit dog holler. If you got a problem with that message, hit dog holler, hit dog holler. And he said it's likely that it's about her being a woman. If you got a problem with the message, hit dog holler, hit dog holler. I didn't have a problem with the message. So, all right.
I
Here you
wanted
go,
to
Donnie. Thanks for the question, bro. All right, let's listen to the rest of this.
talk to you about all of this because I think it's important for people to know what to watch for. So the other challenge, one of the other challenges is state legislatures, right? Which have become, who are the people who are Trump acolytes, have become a bit more informed, more professional in some ways about this. What are you watching and where are you watching in terms of the state legislatures you're most worried about?
Yeah, so I'm watching state legislatures because any under Republican control can try and do what they did in 2020 and pass a fake slate of electors and send it to Washington, D.C. State governors are now, under the 2022 Act, supposed to be in charge, not legislatures, but the state governors could be in on it. You could have a partisan governor who says, I'm going to throw out the vote. And so the key point here is Trump may only need to win in any of these places: state legislature, state governor, maybe state election board or county election board, which is what Trump tried at Wayne County, Michigan in 2020, or the courts, or the U.S. Congress. He's got all of these different fora to play. And as you heard from J.D. Vance, if they can't admit that they that they lost in 2020, what makes you think, even with an overwhelming victory by Kamala Harris in 2024, that they'll acknowledge it?
No, Katil, you have so much Supreme Court, but I know you've been thinking about this a ton, and I know we'll talk.
Now, the one thing that matters in all of these situations is your intent. Did you follow protocol? And every step. So even if you want to deny, even if you want to throw out votes, no matter what you do, it's going to be heavily scrutinized by the FBI. It will be. And, they are very thorough, as you can see. They will be following up on every single individual that claims anything, any type of reasoning, so Biden is still the president at this time, regardless who wins the election. Biden will still be the president until January 6th. And as the president, he has immunity for any acts as the president. So if he feels that there's a threat to democracy, a threat to the United States, So I'm wondering when the news cycle is going to get to that part. But Biden has already said that he doesn't believe in that ruling of the Supreme Court. He stood on the side of the justices that dissented from that vote in the Supreme Court. But the reality is that the Supreme Court has made it law now until otherwise changed in the court, and changed in Congress and the Senate. So Biden has that power, at the end, which is very, very strange because the Supreme Court should have never have done that. But nonetheless, none of that should have been done that led up to the Supreme Court decision. It's the first time that it's been done, you've never had people march in the Confederate flag into the Capitol on January 6th and shit on the floor and, attack people, damage property, and attempt to stop the vote. So it's all new. This will be the second time around. So I would expect that folks are going to go all out on the Dems side too. Not just the Dem side. I mean, the government is going to also go all out because it is their job to protect citizens. Part of citizens is their rights. It's their job to protect their rights. So, let's see here.
Talk about it more, and I look forward to doing that. So I really appreciate you talking to me about it today.
Thank you so much.
So let me see here.
So many of Donald Trump's former cabinet members or senior advisors have said the alarm.
Here we go. This is the second part. What do the generals think? Right? See, this is why I said going back to the vote, don't trust the polls. It could be that a lot more people, and I really do believe this, that a lot more people are supporting Kamala Harris, period, because come on, Joe Biden he had some of the Republicans, but now you have even more Republicans voting for Kamala Harris than even the last election, which means the people too, the constituencies they represent, the people that have seen these persons serve in office, including this general, when a general starts speaking about security of the nation, right, and it being undermined by Donald Trump, these things are serious because security is wide. That's a big thing. That's a huge apparatus when dealing with the United States of America. And it has implications for all its allies. It has implications for every citizen. So let's see.
About what he was like in office, that's almost hard to even be surprised anymore. But this week, some comments from former Joint Chiefs Chairman Mark Milley. We've already been talking about it during the show. He's not exactly a lefty progressive, let me remind you. Certainly did the job. I mean, in his new book, War, journalist Bob Woodward describes a conversation with Milley where he said this, quote, "No one has ever been as dangerous to this country as Donald Trump." He went on to say that Trump is, quote, "the most dangerous person ever. I had suspicions when I talked to you," as in when he talked to him for the book, "about his mental decline and so forth. But now I realize he's a total fascist. He is the most dangerous person to this country. A fascist to the core," Milley repeated to Woodward. "I will never forget the intensity of his worry." Again, this is the former chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, a man appointed by Donald Trump, who sat with him countless times in the Situation Room, a man intimately aware of the numerous threats facing our country, calling Trump the most dangerous person to this country.
So now the military sits right aside and is there to, again, protect the citizens, protect the nation, and all of its apparatus, right? All of it.
If you're a content creator of any kind, you need to.
So they, at any time, if they see a threat, right, a foreign threat, if there's any part of this that has anything to do with a foreign threat, the military is obligated to act. Now, people have been saying for weeks now, there's in this book that they just mentioned, Don't Sleep, because I believe they're giving indications of what you can expect here. They don't know
here
that there's
with
some important indications. Check it out. This book right here. This book. Oh, hold on. Is it not showing? Here we go. This book, they have documented Donald Trump speaking. Why isn't it showing up on the screen? Oh, here it is. This book, they've documented Donald Trump speaking with Putin 7 individual times after he was in office. So that means Donald Trump, now, if you've been following that conversation, that's unprecedented. You're not supposed to, even as an ex-vice president, you're not supposed to be speaking with anyone who is an enemy of the United States of America. Now, they're not telling people what they're going to do about that, but you could be damn sure that it's their job to do something about that, right? And as you know, Donald Trump doesn't care, but not caring doesn't mean nothing's going to happen either. You see what I mean? That just means he's a lunatic, right? So this might be a situation, I'm pretty sure, although it may not be televised, because it's not their duty to televise it, it's their duty to protect the nation. I'm pretty sure if there's any part of this that is part of a foreign plot, that they would be discussing it. The CIA, military, would be discussing it with the FBI, which is the national security inside the borders. So being directed to do things, or being coupled with the knowledge that if you do this, that is good for us. You will, if we help you somehow, if there's any connection whatsoever, you see, there's likely to be some action. But in any case, you could put the pieces together. Yeah, I don't think Donald Trump is going to be president at all. That's my prediction. I just think he's going to try a whole lot of stuff, and I think he's going to fail hard and miserably at a whole lot of stuff. And I think a whole lot of people that are helping him are going to go to jail. And I think a whole lot is to be discovered later about what the government is thinking right now, although they have presented the base facts to the public already. So let's go over to that. FBI warns of election interference. FBI warns of election interference. Did I spell that right? Oh, hold on. Sorry about that. Here we go. Got to listen to statements very close.
These actions are desperate attempts by desperate adversaries.
Now at 11, national security threat with voting already underway and the election less than 2 weeks away. Top national security officials are issuing a warning about foreign countries trying to meddle in the 2020 election. Good evening, everyone. I'm Carolyn Johnson in for Colleen Williams.
And I'm Chuck Henry. That interference includes threatening emails meant to intimidate voters. NBC4's Robert Kovacic is following this developing story from our newsroom. Robert?
Chuck and Carolyn, and we do have late word from the White House tonight, a statement that
now they're not going to tell you all the things. They're not going to tell you all the things that are going on. They're telling you the base, just the basis of it, so the citizens can understand, right? Now, you already heard them talking about threatening emails. You already heard them mentioning foreign governments, right? So, yeah.
That reads, because of the great work of our law enforcement agencies, we have stopped an attempt by America's adversaries to undermine our elections. This comes after an evening news conference where 2 of the nation's top intelligence officials announced foreign meddling by Iran and Russia in the 2020 election.
We have confirmed that some voter registration information has been obtained by Iran and separately by Russia.
The president's director of national security did not release details, but NBC News is reporting tonight that Iran sent in.
Now, so you already see, but Trump has communicated with Putin who was a Russian diplomat, or the president of Russia, if you could call him that, the man who runs Russia. He's communicated with Putin, who was an enemy of the United States of America, 7 times after he left office, right? To say the least, from what they know now. Now you're hearing that Putin is actually interfering along with other nations. You don't know if it's a collaboration. You don't know if it's just they're doing it individually on their own. But put 2 and 2 together. Just put 2 and 2 together. I mean, Trump is running for office. He talked to Putin 7 times since he left office. He's been pretty much running since he left office because he said he never lost the election. And here you find out that Putin has been interfering with the election already. You see, so things are going to get interesting. And of course, the lunatics that support these types of things like Trump and Putin, they're just emphatic about, feeling the I don't know what you call it, the passion. They're filled with passion over this, but lunatics will be, because that passion doesn't necessarily translate into action. It doesn't mean the government is so passionate like they are about it. It doesn't mean the government is happy that Putin's tampering in the election. It doesn't mean they're happy that Donald Trump has been speaking with Putin 7 times since he got out of the White House. So just because the lunatics are happy about that and think that that's a way Trump is going to get back in office, again, put all these things together. Ex-Joint Chief of Staff said Donald Trump is the most dangerous person to the United States ever. Just put the pieces together. They're not going to just come out and tell you, everything. You got to use your brain a little bit and put the pieces together. I'm pretty sure what I'm saying is more likely to be true than not true. So just pay attention here.
Emails to Democratic voters posing as members of the far-right Proud Boys. Those emails were faked to stir unrest.
These actions are desperate attempts by desperate adversaries.
President voters in battleground North Carolina this evening downplaying Russian interference in the last election.
Remember, I said, Russia, 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 if you're listening, please give us whatever it was, Hillary's emails or whatever. And they said he was asking Russia for help. These people are sick.
No response yet from the Biden camp to the FBI announcement as the race for the White House heads into the final stretch with renewed concern.
No response yet from Biden. That would be wise. That would be very, very wise, because the security folks, the CIA, the FBI, the Justice Department, they can do this job on their own. They don't need any words from Biden, because the law is the law. Separate powers. You are not to say anything if you know anything about how the country is structured and your job is the president, which Donald Trump doesn't know, because apparently, obviously, we've seen him do it the exact opposite for the first time. Things worth knowing. The problems with the election won't start until Trump loses. That's just my no. You just witnessed problems with the election right here, sister. I've been saying this to everyone. Well, they're going to intensify, they're going to morph, they're going to change, but they're already started interfering. They've already started planning. This we've discovered and been talking about. That's the problem. That's part of the problem. So the problems have already started. The question is, and these problems are being addressed along the way. People are speaking about it. So we know there's already problems. The FBI, this statement was from the FBI. Is it the FBI? FBI, right. Foreign. Okay. This statement was weeks ago. This is 3 years ago, even. You see? So this is not even the latest statement that they made. They made a newer statement. Let me see here. Let's continue with this one. But so they've been tampering the entire time. So, but I hear what you're saying. When he officially loses the election, but Donald Trump has already said that, he won't admit to losing anyway. You see, JD Vance has said that also. He won't. They're not going to admit to losing. You see, so that's a problem too. So, it depends on how you take it. I mean, yeah, serious violent problems. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Let's see here. Let's just finish listening to this one, and then I'm going to play one more that's recent.
Concerns that foreign countries are hoping to undermine trust in the outcome, no matter who wins.
We've been working for years as a community to build resilience in our election infrastructure, and today that infrastructure remains resilient.
Our NBC4 team has
All
been.
right, so let me go into let's go back for a second. FBI. It was Garland that made the announcement. Hold on. But I don't know what's going on. Why does this keep going back to 4 years? What is this? 6 months? Here we go. No. Oh, here we go, Donnie. This is Obama's statement to black men. Let's see here. Let me see something. I think it was Garland. It was Garland who said it. But I don't know why that's not coming up in the thread. That's really, really weird. But here we go. Let's go. This is the one I'm talking about.
We found Sprizzy through a Google search, pretty much.
Is it not playing back? Here we go. Let's listen.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Can you hear this?
We launched election threats task force.
Okay. Wait a second. You can't hear this one. If you can hear it, press 1. Press 1 if you can hear it in the chat. Let me see something. This is on Forbes, but let me go back. Maybe Forbes is. Let me see. AG Merrick Garland, FBI Director. Right. Okay, let's do this. Let me just get the next one up here. Yeah, because here we go. Is it security meeting 1 month ago? This is the one I'm talking about.
Itself. In just a few minutes, the task force here will meet to discuss its continuing work in advance of the upcoming election. But before we begin, I want to address the tragic shooting that occurred this morning at a high school in Winder, Georgia. We are still gathering information, but the FBI and ATF are on the scene, working with state, local, and federal partners. I'm devastated for the families who have been affected by this terrible tragedy. The Justice Department stands ready to provide any resources of support.
Let me just say that again.
We are still gathering information, but the FBI. But before we begin, I want to address the tragic shooting that
okay.
Have been affected.
I get it. That shooting didn't have anything to do with this, the election interference. But let's go ahead. This is the task force that was put together with the idea that there would be election tampering. So this was just 1 month ago. So let's be clear. The government has expected elected interference the entire time since Donald Trump left office on September, since the September 6th thing, and the response of Donald Trump, the response of his constituency and the persons working with him. They have all, made comments to the effect that they believe he won the election. And they've made comments when asked, will you accept the election results this time around? They have all made comments that allude to that they will not accept the election results, regardless of what they are. So In light of that and a lot of other activities, this was a statement made by the FBI 1 month ago regarding their approach to this up and coming election. And it means the election for the presidency and also for the under tickets as well. You see, any type of election tampering, they are announcing that they're going to be all over and prosecuting individuals to the fullest. Remind me to play the one of the woman who just 2 days ago or 3 days ago removed the voting box from a neighborhood. Let's see here. Let's go.
The Justice Department stands ready to provide any support that the Linder community needs in the days ahead. Before I get to the work of the task force, I also want to announce two major law enforcement actions that the Justice Department is taking that are separate from the important force, but are part of our broader effort to protect our elections from unlawful interference of any kind. First, this morning we unsealed an indictment in the Southern District of New York of Konstantin Kalashnikov and Elena Afanasieva, two Russian employees of RT, a Russian state-controlled media outlet. They are charged with conspiring to commit money laundering and to violate the Foreign Agents Registration Act. That law, enacted nearly a century ago,
Sorry, I just want to explain something to people. Now, even if you're just listening to disinformation that is put out by the Russian government and you are using that information, knowing that if you've been told it's disinformation, if you've been told that, and in which you could be very sure Donald Trump has been, and his campaign has been, if you continue to use it, even if there's no direct, even if you haven't been told by Putin to use it, just the fact that you're using it and are aware that you're using it and are aware that it's disinformation and you attempt to use it to your advantage, I think that's also a crime. You see, that's also a crime there, a serious crime. And again, that would involve a lot of investigations into other people around you that can speak to your intent, just like they've already been gathering about Donald Trump's intent the last time around. I mean, Donald Trump is in legal jeopardy to the fullest because he has even made statements as of late in the last few days that contradict his stance in the court filings that he's made. What is it? He wants an appeal. He wanted an appeal from the last decision, and he in the courts, and he said something to the effect that he invokes his freedom of speech, something like that, or First Amendment rights, something like that. But that's a personal thing. Then that means your actions were personal in that instance. You see. And that's different. So he actually has blown his most serious case. He's blown it through his own legal filings. We're going to get into that too, but let's just play this. So that's two things I got to play after this.
Was enacted to ensure that the American people were informed when a foreign power engages in political activities or seeks to influence them. The American people are entitled to know when a foreign power is attempting to exploit our country's free exchange of ideas in order to send around its own propaganda. The company never disclosed to the, and that is what we alleged happened in this case. In the wake of Russia's brutal invasion of Ukraine in February 2022, RT, which was then known as Russia Today, was dropped by its American distributors. The company ceased its formal operations in the United States, and the European Union, the UK, and Canada banned RT's broadcasting. But as RT itself has boasted, the government of Russia continued to use RT to direct disinformation and propaganda. In the wake of Russia's brutal invasion of Ukraine, RT's editor-in-chief said the company had built, quote, an entire empire of covert projects designed to shape public opinion in Western audiences. We allege that as part of that effort, RT and its employees, including the defendants, implemented a nearly $10 million scheme to fund and direct a Tennessee-based company to publish and disseminate content deemed favorable to the Russian government. To implement this scheme, the defendants directed the company to contract with U.S.-based social media influencers to share this content on their platforms. The subject matter and content of many of the videos published by the company were often consistent with Russia's interest in amplifying U.S. domestic divisions in order to weaken U.S. opposition to core Russian interests, particularly its ongoing war in Ukraine. The company never disclosed to the influencers or to their millions of followers its ties to RT and the Russian government. Instead, the defendants and the company claimed that the company was sponsored by a private investor. But that private investor was a fictitious persona. The charges unsealed this morning do not represent the end of the investigation. It remains active and ongoing. In a separate enforcement action, the Justice Department is seizing 32 internet domains that the Russian government and the Russian-sponsored actors have used to engage in a covert campaign to interfere and influence the outcome of our country's elections. As a
You see that? So right there, even if you claim that you know, for some reason that there's no direct thing, nobody told me to use this information, they never told me to use it, they never told me I had to use it. No. Just the mere fact that you have been told in advance, prior, that this is disinformation and you continue to use it, that is enough to establish coupling, meaning your connection to it, your involvement with it, knowingly. You see, so this little game that they're playing is not going to be good enough according to the law. And keep in mind, regardless of who wins the election, Biden is still the president the day after the election. Yes, he is. Yes. Regardless of who's involved. You see? So there's still some governing to do after September 6th, after the counting. You see? So, and the Supreme Court has stated very clearly the president has immunity for any presidential act, and protecting the government from voter suppression, voter fraud, attempting to overthrow an election, all of these things, that would be something that's within the president's purview. It's already been established that there's some other things going on. I'm not going to mention it, but let me just play just for a couple more seconds.
In our court filings, President Vladimir Putin,
He's breaking down each step, each individual thing that they're going to be looking out for in the future here. And again, this was stated when? This was 1 month ago, right? Let's see here. Yeah, this is 1 month ago. You see? And they're breaking down different forms of election interference and tampering that they will be actively going after, aggressively going after. So, you know what? That's enough of this one. You guys can check this out on your own independently. So let me see here. Now, let's go to the next one. Boom. Woman removes voting box. They need to throw the book at her. I mean, I'm sure it's going to happen. Hold on. What the? Look at this. What? I don't even know where this is. Where is this? Oh, that's Russian. I can't even. Yeah. Okay. Let's see here. Woman confronts armed man near ballot drop box. Where is this? This is in Arizona? Okay. Okay. Let's see here. Damn, this is in Bridgeport. She's stuffing the ballot boxes. What the hell? Let's see here. Video shows woman. No. Early voting numbers indicate Republicans embracing access to ballot box before election day. Oh, that's good. Let's go back and cover that. But hold on. There's a woman who removed an election box, and she's also been charged. Let's see here. Damn, where's that story at? Let me see. Does anybody know what story that was? Actually, where was it? Logistics. There's actually a big story the last few days. A woman removed an entire box. But as you can see here, there's a lot of stories. Oh, wow. I missed this. Hold on. What is this? Let me see something here. Because I'm overseas.
Apropos vild rabat,
so I'm just curious about what this is
lige nu
about.
60% rabat på den populære.
Let's see here.
23.
Talk about how every vote's going to count in the battleground states that's cast by Americans who are living abroad. With about 1.6 million people living overseas from the 7 swing states. And Republicans, well, they are hell-bent on making it harder for their votes to be counted. Republicans had filed lawsuits in Michigan, North Carolina, and Pennsylvania, challenging the legitimacy of ballots cast from citizens abroad, including, get ready for this, military members. But state election officials and voting rights groups are pushing back against those suits. Joining us now from Germany, Susan Sweeney, President and CEO of the U.S. Vote Foundation and founder of Overseas Vote.
Susan, welcome. It's so good to see you. And for disclosure for our audience, I chair the U.S. Vote Foundation. It's a non-profit, non-partisan organization that is solely focused on getting voters information about their rights to vote. And Susan, the issue around voting here at home is crazy and gnarly, difficult at times, and we see that. People oftentimes don't realize we have a lot of Americans who live abroad, who work abroad. Our servicemen women who are serving on foreign soil, as an estimated 4.4 million U.S. citizens lived abroad in 2022, and about 2.8 million of them were 18 years or older. The U.S. Vote Foundation's work to keep voters abroad informed and engaged and reassure that their votes will count is an important part of that work. How does that play out, particularly in this event where seemingly the Republican Party, my party, unfortunately, are out there attacking overseas voters?
Well, I guess it's no surprise that disinformation would sweep up new groups of voters this year. I guess I was a bit surprised to see that it would actually extend to our U.S. troops and families who side of it, and to U.S. overseas citizens. Let me emphasize the fact that we are, and we do carry the right to vote. It is codified in federal law. And plan on voting this year. There's been a lot of attention on the year because it's completely unoptimized. There's so many overseas voters out there and military voters and their families who have the right to vote who actually haven't taken advantage of that. The turnout rate is less than 8%, even in the best of years. So there has been concerted effort upon it to bring out more of the overseas vote, and we welcome this attention. In fact, I need to thank you for covering this very important topic. that has brought with it some scrutiny, but we're ready.
Yeah, Susan, I just want to give folks some of the numbers that you just mentioned. So absentee voting deadlines have loomed for troops and their families. Specifically, about 3/4 of the 1.4 million active duty members are eligible to vote by absentee ballot because they're stationed away from their voting residence. In addition, their families can vote by absentee ballot. And then you have this reporting from Newsweek that talks about the fact that Americans living abroad could actually swing key states. It writes, it notes Joe Biden won Georgia in the 2020 presidential election by 11,779. That number.
Let me just tell you guys, in case you don't know, Americans living abroad, because they're either seeing how other countries are being governed, like with social services, education, healthcare, things like this, are very, very active, as well as people that are service members, right? They're seeing, horrible events go on. They're seeing the defense of the United States and their allies and their assets abroad, and know how serious it is when you start having a person like Trump say, hey, we're going to pull back, So this overseas voting, I believe, I'm going to look into this, but I've been told this before, heavily favors Democrats. You see, so again, you already heard earlier that the Republicans will be targeting places where they feel Democrat Party turnout is higher than Republican turnout. So they will be going to states that are up for grabs, right? They could be Republican or Democratic, or they will be going for things like, us outside of the U.S., Americans that live abroad, people that are American citizens. I'm only a citizen of the U.S., but I live abroad, you see. But, let's play some more.
A substantially smaller number, the 18,475 overseas votes counted for the state. And they cite Arizona. Biden won the state by a little over 10,000 votes. And then there are 18,435 overseas votes that were counted. More numbers for North Carolina. So this is, I think the increased attention is because there are some. There are 18,000.
Okay, this says Joe in Georgia in the 22 presidential election, only by 11,000 votes, a substantially smaller number than the 18,000 overseas votes counted for the state. You see? So this is the people that live outside of the U.S. from Arizona, right? Their votes, there were more of them that voted for Biden. You see, I mean, more of them that that turned out, how can I say this? The number, you see, how can I say this? Biden, the people that were in Arizona at the time when they voted, Biden won those by 11,000, right? Almost 12,000 votes. But the Arizonians living outside, right? Biden, there was 18,000 that voted for him. I don't even think, Trump, I don't think, what does it say? Hold on, let me read the whole thing. Americans living abroad could swing key states. Joe Biden won Georgia in 2020 president election by only 11,779 votes, a substantially smaller number than the 18,475 overseas votes counted for the state. Likewise, in Arizona, Biden won the state by only 10,457 votes, while 18,435 overseas votes. Why is this? Okay, it's something messing my screen up. I'm sorry. It's my playback. They're blocking what I'm reading here.
And they cite Arizona. Biden won the state by a little over 10,000 votes. And then there are 8.
It's this damn thing here. Get that off. Okay, sorry. Here we go. I don't know if y'all can see that, but it's the CC playing over some of the words I'm reading. Likewise, in Arizona, Biden won the state by only 10,457 votes, while 18,435 overseas votes were counted. Trump won North Carolina by 74,483 votes, with 26,386 overseas ballots. So you can see overseas voting is substantial enough. It's substantial enough to swing the election. Just like, just like 20,000 or 11,000 votes could swing the election in any state. You see, 1,000 votes can swing the election in any state. One vote can swing the election in any state. But, luckily the voter turnouts are much higher and things like this. It's usually, the difference is usually 1,000 or higher, right? So, Wild Funk says Democrats are the only ones that usually travel anyway, bro. Hey, bro, if that's what you say, man, I rarely meet Republicans. I've met a few, but the ones outside seem to be a bit more reasonable. You know what I'm saying? A bit more, conscious about these kind of things. But let me see here. Pumpkin also asked the question. You asked a question earlier. Do you think Facebook and YouTube and other social media content creators will be taken down for using false information? Well, they don't support false information, but I think they haven't been aggressive enough. But the issue here, Pumpkin, is that what's the line between freedom of speech and false information? It's a thin line. So that's the problem. The government so far has been leaning. I'm talking about the Biden administration has been leaning, and Democrats, Republicans alike have been leaning towards freedom of speech. They don't want to become a country like Russia or China where you prohibit speech. So what they've been trying to do is the alternative, that is educate people about the disinformation that's going on so they won't actively be a part in it, to be aware of disinformation. And they're hoping that that will be the difference. But I think they're doing the right thing. Don't get me wrong. I agree with it, It's how you use information. Some disinformation is embedded with some truths, some small truths to get you to digest the bigger lie. You see what I mean? So there's a fine line there, but yeah. All right. So let's continue with this. This is election interference that the FBI is already on top of. So
1,435.
again, there's been people challenging already this time that have tried to throw out. Look at this. Slams attack on American voters abroad. See, they tried to get some votes out that are already coming in because people like myself that vote overseas, right? We're overseas, we're voting electronically largely. Not all. Some of the states are not. Some you get your ballot. You can get it through your email. Some are doing that email. I didn't do it through email. I did it through the other version, which is called electronic. And in some states, they send it to your mailbox overseas. You fill it out by paper. You put a certified thing on it. You send it back. That's the process. So overseas voters tend to vote early, like I did 2 weeks ago. I voted early. And of course, I voted for Biden and Walz because of their policy. I'm a policy person. I'm not, but I believe there's representation matters now. Representation matters, just like, because of other forms of discrimination, out there. Sometimes people, they don't care what the policies are. They just don't want to see somebody with a certain color or a certain gender say those things. That could be enough to get them to close their ears. So I believe representation matters because then you get an opportunity to see and come over those fears like a lot of people did with Obama, but in any case, there's been election interference tampering already. Federal government is responding to it, and they will continue to respond, and they expect it this time around. They expect all types of fraud, all types of violence, all types of September 6th stuff, all types of election denial by people that typically deny elections. So here we go.
Overseas votes that were counted, more numbers from North Carolina. So this intention is because there are some in this country, and I mean, I want to be very specific, disproportionate members of the Republican Party apparatus who feel as though more voters means that they could potentially not do as well. But I think that, there are Republicans that are registered abroad, right? There are independents, and yes, there are Democrats. And so this effort to essentially disenfranchise these voters isn't just hurting one political party, it is hurting voters across the political spectrum.
That is such a good point. We are as diverse a population as the U.S.-based population. We are students studying abroad, traveling people, retirees abroad, working people.
Take a listen. See, there's these Republicans that live abroad. They tend, to vote a little different, however, from time to time than these MAGA Republicans. You see, the ones that live abroad pretty much are not MAGA Republicans because they've given the opportunity to see how other countries deal with different problems like healthcare, education, what's the third one? Oh, housing, right? And so they tend to understand these issues in a more comprehensive manner. And then you have the other type that also sees how Russia and other governments are threatening NATO nations and threatening overseas assets that are American. And they tend to vote a little different than MAGA folks, but they're still Republicans. So why would you equally cast their vote out? You see, so this is an attack on voters in general that everyone should be concerned about. And but again, the gaslighting is going to send the MAGA people out to say, yeah, we're only challenging this election because we're concerned, not because we want Donald Trump in office, but we know it's because they want Donald Trump in office because he never admitted that he lost the last election. And they're not even saying if they're going to do it this time around. It was said Donald Trump knew. It's been documented by the people that were around him, witnesses, first-hand witnesses. Donald Trump was told he lost the election on September 6th. And he said, we're going to deny it. We're going to announce winning anyway. That's what he said, according to the witnesses that were with him. So you can see how this is going.
Those who are serving our country in the military and as diplomats, missionaries, aid workers, we are all over the map. And the mistake made in the math there is to assume that votes that come in from overseas or from military members are all for one specific party. They're not. I mean, it's nice to see that we are all more aware of the fact that the overseas vote could come in greater numbers. We have yet to see any proof of that. We hope that this year it will be better for the added attention that has been given to it and the increased outreach. That would be a first. I can understand that some people have their knickers in a twist because they think, oh, we're going to get an avalanche of ballots from abroad, but that has yet to be seen. I hope it does happen, but again, wishful thinking.
Michael, I just want to kick this over to you really quickly. I'm not sure if you saw this headline from Media Matters about a conspiracy theory about overseas voting spread from an election denial website to the MAGA media infrastructure. It's falling in with their many conspiracies and about how there's cheating that is on the brink of happening.
No, that's exactly right. And Susan, speak to us, if you could, real quickly about the Uniform and Overseas Citizens Absentee Voting Act, which is now of PAC against overseas voting. What is it virtually, and what is the impact of these attacks?
It's important to remember that voting absentee within the military started way back in the Civil War. It was first codified around the time of the Second World War, and then subsequent legislation followed in 1955, 1975, and then under the Reagan administration in 1986, the Uniformed and Overseas Citizens Absentee Voting Act, UOCAVA, big vocabulary word for some, that came into being, and we still operate under it. It has been amended and even improved since then, but largely this is our law. I think, hey, open season, I guess, but let's just look at one really important thing. Timing. Timing is everything. It puts these lawsuits into, question. It's a little bit suspect that ballots have already been requested from our military and overseas voters to be, because deadlines haven't fallen in all states. Ballots have questioned. It's a little bit suspect that ballots have already been requested from our military and overseas voters. They continue to be because deadlines haven't fallen in all states. Ballots have started going out for overseas military voters as of 45 days prior to the election. That's specified as part of the law. So that was September 21st. Look at us now, October.
I'm sorry, I was on mute. This is it's actually suspect, and this is crazy. I mean, it's like a paranoia. This is why I say Donald Trump already knows he's losing the election, because when you're challenging things when they haven't even finished or come close to finishing, it's only 45 days before the election when you can start voting overseas for most places, not all places, not all states. You see, and he already suspects that it's going to be against him. Republicans already suspect that the votes, because there's 3 weeks left. She's breaking it down for you. You see, so that leads me to, like many people, to believe that Donald Trump already knows he's losing this election. There's going to be way more people, voting against Donald Trump. However, the polls do show that it's tight, and it could be tight no matter what. Tight is tight. How tight, we don't know. But it leads me to believe that they already suspect Donald Trump is going to lose in his party or in MAGA, in his campaign office. And so they're going all out. And when I say Donald Trump, I don't mean Donald Trump alone. I mean the billionaire class that is behind Donald Trump. All billionaires are not behind Donald Trump, but there's a segment of them that are supremacist. You have to understand that. And they have been pushing, they have been funding the MAGA movement when Donald Trump's broken assets, aren't able to. Donald Trump is not the lead man. He's not the money man behind his movement. You see, so it's clear. You have to be clear when you look at this. He's the little billionaire. He's not the big one. He's the unsuccessful billionaire with the mouthpiece, the puppet for the other ones. Don't you know how the game is played? The piece that is the face is often not the piece that's in charge. Because why would you put the piece that's in charge? Why would they risk themselves by making themselves the face? Therefore, get all the attacks, take all the risk. You see, so no matter what you think, Donald Trump is not the one that wants something out of this election. Yeah, he wants his freedom. He wants to escape prison, but it's not just about Donald Trump. It's about something, an element that's behind Donald Trump that is white supremacist in the billionaire class. And they have been planning this for some minutes. And the fact that they have been cooperating with Russia, you should not be surprised, because Russia is very white supremacist, in case you do not know. They pump that all day in Russia. Minorities don't stand a damn chance, particularly the ones with color in Russia. They don't even do data on that. And keep that in mind, African Americans. Everyone knows that discrimination exists towards African Americans because they do the data. The state does the data. The law is do data. They work with NGOs to collect data. Everyone knows that. There's no data on any people of color in Russia. Zero. They don't follow those conventions. And in fact, some of those conventions are non-binding, and they should be binding. But let's play some more.
We welcome the questions. We love more attention on the overseas and military voting process, but let's save that for after a winner is declared.
Susan Sweeney, thank you so much for taking the time to join us this morning.
Yeah, she just shut that down. Exactly. So let's see here. Let's go back. Now let me. Oh shit! Oops! Damn! Hell no! I pressed the wrong button. Let's go back here. Now there was something. Is it on CNN? Where's the story? Pumpkin, you said Arizona voting box removed. Let me type that. Okay, there's obviously intimidation. Where? Okay. Well, I didn't queue this one up, I just went on the freelance today, but or this morning, but there was a box removed and the woman is going to be I don't she's going to be prosecuted by the state. They found out uh and so something is going to happen. How bad that is, how bad what the severity of the prosecution is going to be, I don't know, but you know in any case, the federal government is on the job too, and they have stated that they are going to be following this election very closely, and obviously that means more close. And Garland gave a description a couple of times, so people should go on YouTube and or Google it, either one, and find the articles, bring them up. But we went over a little bit. But Garland, they're expecting all types of election interference. They're expecting foreign interference, which they've already documented. They're expecting coupling of MAGA with some foreign extremists, even though they're not saying it, but read between the lines. Because if you're sharing the same disinformation that the foreign government is promoting on social media, then you're coupled whether you know it or not. And again, if you've been told that it's disinformation, if you've been told that it's disinformation and you continue, which is what Donald Trump already knew, a lot of the things that they're promoting, you could be sure that their campaign knows that it's fraudulent. They know that it's been coupled. They've been warned. Why? Anyone that has any knowledge of the FBI knows that the FBI also has a duty to warn you of a threat to even to Donald Trump, even to his campaign. You see, so understand how that works. So it's none of this like, oh, I didn't know. They won't be able to play that game. You see, so yeah. In any case, folks, what was it? Was it one more thing that we wanted to go over? Let me see. It was the ballot box, and then what else? Let me go back in the chat. So I think it was Pumpkin said something here. Who said it? She said it was Arizona. You said it was Arizona, Pumpkin, but let me see here. All types of stuff is going on in Arizona. Let's just look at Arizona real quick. Let's just say that. Let's just say Arizona. Keep it out of this one. I don't know who and I don't know what, I've been noticing something funny with my responses, like CNN News 18. That's not real. That's not real CNN. But they always seem to pop up lately. 2 days ago, 7 hours ago. All right, let me just check this one out. This is CNN.
If you'd like to know how an affiliate marketer can go from a small
right-wing leaning lately, but who cares? Because I like to look at both and then see how it pans out tomorrow. Let's see here.
In this Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, it's attracted the most amount of attention of any of the 50 states, and it could very well determine next president. And now with the voter registration deadline fast approaching, there are some critical data points to help give us some clues about what might happen in just 3 short weeks. So I have Harry Enton here at the Magic Wall to dive into the numbers. All right, so Harry, tell us what you have found about how voters are leaning at this point compared to 2020.
Yeah, I mean, the voter registration numbers, if you want a stat that Republicans absolutely love, it's this one. All right, Pennsylvania voter registration, you register by party in that state. You go back to November of 2020, You see Democrats 47%, Republicans 39. That was an 8-point advantage. Look at where we are today. Yes, more voters in Pennsylvania registered as Democrats than Republicans, but it's now just 44% to 40. Now they've got a 4-point gap. Republicans, have cut that Democratic advantage in half. In such a short period of time. They have gone out, they have registered voters. There are folks that have come over to their side who were previously registered Democrats. The question is, where are they picking up ground, Manu? Where are they picking up ground? This, to me, says it all. Right. Which Pennsylvania counties did the GOP gain in registration? If you look in counties where less than 50% of the population is non-college white voters, Republicans gain just a point. Where you have over 50% non-college whites, look at this. Republicans gain 6 points on average. Wow. They are picking up ground in the areas you would expect them to pick up ground, right? Those non-college white dominated areas, coal country in the Northeast, Southwest outside of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. But the bottom line is the registration trends, the trends we've been seeing the last few cycles with Republicans dominating among non-college white voters, very much showing up in this party registration.
It's so interesting because David McCormick, who's the Senate candidate, Republican Senate candidate, told me actually he believes that can actually propel him to victory because they're narrowing that in with Democrats of voter registration. But what's this, Harris?
Now, this narrowing is still not overcoming. Narrowing is just narrowing, and narrowing is not a win. You see, but it's significant to pay attention to that to those numbers because they could continue. You see, but narrowing is just narrowing. It is not overcoming. It's not being the majority. And in the state, you would have to get the majority to get the, I believe, in different counties to get the electorate vote. But here's the thing. That's Pennsylvania. So Kamala Harris would have to, let's say if she loses Pennsylvania for some reason, she would have to get one of the up for grab southern states. And so the same argument, could be made maybe on the other side. But in any case, these are polls. Every vote counts. You can register to vote still right now. So there's the link. Only go to an official link. Don't be swindled because, as you've heard, there's people out there that are going out there and giving false information, trying to suppress the vote, which is really strange. But they're targeting individuals. So just make it easy on yourself. Go to the government website, which is vote.gov. If it doesn't have a .gov, you may just want to go to .gov first to see what other links they have there from your state and things like this, the election board from your actual state. But check .gov first, vote.gov first, and then they will give you the official information for your state. And the state will tell you exactly what your possibilities are to register to vote, whether it's electronic, whether it's by email, or whether it's by overseas paper ballot. Okay, so let me just drop the link. I got some minutes today. So I'm going to drop the link in case there's any night owls up in the U.S. or somebody over here in the EU that wants to hop up and speak on the topic. Yeah, so let me also check on one other thing. While I play this, let's go.
Victory in Pennsylvania.
All right, so all of this data for Democrats, right? Good news for Republicans. But there's one thing to keep in mind, right? You had that New York Times, Siena College poll that came out yesterday that showed Kamala Harris slightly ahead, but within the margin of error. Why is that? Because take a look here. This is the Pennsylvania margin by party registration in that poll. What you see here is that Kamala Harris, I'm going to come over to your side of the screen, Manu, is doing better among Democrats, a 77-point lead, than Donald Trump is among Republicans, a 74-point advantage. She's also doing better with those who are not registered with a party or with another party. But this nugget is key because even though Republicans have closed that registration gap, they haven't closed it completely. So the fact that Harris is doing slightly better among Democrats and Republicans, and there are more of them, that is what gives Democrats solace, is because at this particular point, that state, compared to, say, Arizona, slightly more favorable to Kamala Harris, at least in the polling data so far.
So what does it tell us? I mean,
and also, check out the demeanor of Kamala Harris and check out the demeanor of Donald Trump. Let me see something here. Yeah, and you tell me, is Donald Trump behaving like a person that believes he's going to win? right. Does Donald Trump or does he behave differently? Yeah. And if you ask me, Kamala Harris is behaving like a person that's confident, right? And logical and rational and feels strong about winning. However, rational means, hey, given the circumstances, given September 6th last year, given the voter intimidation, given how everything is being challenged by Republican lawyers, every single thing, even the overseas ballots, like we just heard, she's aware that somehow, some way, things may not turn out in her favor. So she's asking everyone to do what? Just register to vote. She's repeating this, saying your vote counts, right? So we will see if reason and rational thinking overcomes lunacy, violence, hate, and undermining basic rights, like your right to. I mean, why should you? Why should this even be a question about, voting? Why can't that be a peaceful affair? Why does it have to be violent? Who incited the violence? Those are people that don't feel confident about winning based on their argument. And democracy is supposed to be about laying out your argument to the people and letting the people decide who has the best argument. It's not supposed to be about voter intimidation. It's not supposed to be about suppressing the votes. But we know that, some folks don't agree. And we will see that. But let me see here. Is there one more? Oh my God. Let's see here. All right.
I do this on a part-time basis of 5 to 10.
This is so funny. Yeah. And these are the new polls. So it is tight according to the polls.
More on our brand new NBC News poll. I am joined now by national political correspondent Steve Kornacki to take us through all of the numbers. Steve, boy, this is a big one.
Yeah, I mean, Kristen, the numbers say it. It is a tie game here weeks before the election, and it's that shift. Our last poll taken in the wake of that September debate, Harris had opened up that advantage over Trump. Gone in our new poll. What goes into that? What's behind that? I think this one is revealing. This is the basic perception voters have of these candidates. Is it positive? Is it negative? Now, these are not great numbers for either one. Trump, 43 positive, 51 negative. He's 8 points under where you might say. But look at Harris. Exact same positive score. And that negative number almost in the exact same place. And this is it. The last time we polled this question after that debate, Harris had really made up ground in this area. Look, she had a positive rating, 48 to 45. So that advantage has all washed away for her. Then there's some issues, some characteristic here. These are advantages in red here that you see for Trump now versus September. On the immigration and the border, we ask voters who would be better on this. A big advantage. It's gotten bigger. On inflation and the cost of living, Trump's advantage now hits double digits. And on the question of who represents change, Harris had the advantage in September. She still does, but lower.
So significant because voters are telling us change is a critical issue for them, not the direction you want to be going in there, Steve.
No, absolutely not. And maybe a reason for that, too, is remember, she's the VP in an unpopular administration. Look, we ask Joe Biden's policies as president. Do you think they're helping or hurting your family? Look at that. Almost 2-to-1 say hurting more than helping. His job approval rating is in the low 40s. And then here's the twist. We ask folks, when Trump was president, were his policies helping or hurting? Look at the difference. 44% say helping, 31% say they hurt. So retrospectively, Trump is getting some numbers here. Maybe he didn't even get when he was president. And then this is, in perspective, the challenge that Harris faces. These are the modern vice presidents like Harris, incumbent vice.
It's typical like that in the American, in the dynamic, because what happens is that you inherit the good policy that the previous president set into place, because the policies they set into place, if they're in-depth policies, they take time to roll out. So usually the person that comes after the good policy decisions is the one who inherits the favor of the people, and it's like this all the time. It even happened for Biden. People early on supported Biden. That's why he could get through many of the things through the Congress, through the Senate, because he inherited the negatives of Trump, and people saw that. They had time to see it and feel the effects of it. You see what I mean? But he made some really deep policy decisions, which don't turn around instant gratification, which are structural. Structural changes are different from small payouts, $1,000 here, $1,000 there, right? Even though the Democrats started that, a lot of people don't recognize that it's the Democratic administration that started those small payouts. Trump continued them, and Biden continued them too, but he ended them. And people felt that inflation was, even though it's global, they felt that Biden, that's Biden's fault. Although the effects of what Biden is doing right now are going to come and be inherited by the next president, which will be very positive and very strong. You see, the question is, what does the next president do with the positive and strong thing they inherit? Like the economy, what do they do to it? You see, what are they going to do? Now, so we'll see how that plays out. But it's a tight race. I don't believe the polls are, and many people say this. Let's just do a final election polls. Since I went into that, let's just end it on the polling. So we heard from NBC, we heard from CNN about Pennsylvania. Okay, and this is CNN. Yeah, we saw that. This is SNL. They're going to do some comedy, of course. Okay, this is now this impact. Don't panic about the 2024 election, despite polls. Okay, stop the doom scrolling. Okay, I'm not into. There's a lot of different internet. The internet, social media is really active, so I don't look at all of it because some of it is, there's other motivations in it. But News Nation is a new one, and we know some of the people there. And it, whether you like their reporting or not, this is not just, it's somewhat reasonable, you could say.
Are you tired of your YouTube channel not getting the attention it deserves? Building a YouTube channel can be a very lucrative and successful.
As I said a minute ago, I want to take a minute today and talk a little bit about politics. Here's the question of the day in the presidential race. Has the momentum in the race started to shift toward Donald Trump? Now, we always look at this board here, our presidential forecast from Decision Desk HQ, where we give a percentage chance of victory. And that for Kamala Harris, you see it there at the top left, 51.9%. So just under 52. They start there because you remember, we do this a lot. She was in the last month up in the mid 50s, was 55, 56, and it's been coming down gradually. So why is that happening? What types of shift we have today on the blue wall states, if we really want to understand why the race looks like it might be tightening, why it really looks like it might be anybody's game. I'll go west to east on Wisconsin, Michigan, and then Pennsylvania, because Wisconsin to me is interesting in a lot of ways. Look where the win probability is in Wisconsin. It says Dem. It's because it had been higher than that. Now it's at 50, literally a 50-50 win probability, which works in some of the other, fundamentals in the race. The registration, what party the governor is, the history of voting, that type of stuff. But the polling averages in all of these states, and we'll talk more about this in a moment, are just about dead even. In this case, Harris, 0.03 advantage in the average of the polls. Also, Michigan. Now, Wisconsin, Trump outperforming his polls, which is also important. Michigan is a state, if you talk to Republicans, if you any of them, at least behind the scenes, were saying, I don't think great in Michigan. And it's a 60-40 win probability advantage for the Democrats. Again, because of some of those fundamentals talking about the way the state normally goes. They have a Democratic governor. It's a Democratic state generally. But look what the polling shows now in Michigan. Trump's taking the lead in the average. 0.6% advantage for Trump in Michigan, and finally Pennsylvania. So Pennsylvania, and this has always been this way, 51%, 0.5% advantage in the average of the polls for Harris. So the thing to keep in mind with this, when we look at that and try to translate it into our prediction map where we have 7 swing states, the easiest way to do the math, we always talk about 19 electoral votes in Pennsylvania. See where it says 93 toss-up votes? 44 of the 93 are in those big three. And instead of me playing around with colors on this particular map, I'll just take you back to 2016, the one time Donald Trump won and became president. When he had 307 electoral votes, he won all three of those. So for a Democrat in this situation, you'd have to start flipping this map. That's 11, right? So if I come around here and made that blue, that's one. But then you'd have to, he won Georgia as well, keep that blue. See, that's still only 258. So in this scenario, Harris would have to run the table in all the other swing states, like North Carolina, right? Just to get to where it was. But again, in 2016, it looked, it was an advantage for Trump when he was at 3-3. We'll see where it goes. But in terms of momentum now, you have to say it's a little bit. Doesn't mean he's going to win, but a little bit of movement here over the last month for Trump. Bob Q, thanks so much for watching.
Right,
Just go to joinnn.com.
Yeah, so it's a tight race. Trump has some momentum, apparently, that he didn't have a couple weeks ago. And who knows what that's about, if it's just, and who knows where it's going to swing. I mean, there's 3 weeks left, and a lot has happened. There's been, there's been in the southern states some flooding. We will see how all of this turns out. But in any case, you know how to vote. If it's legal for you to vote, like some of these states, a felon can't vote. So who's responsible for that? Let's look into that. I have no clue. At one time it was probably seen as a good idea by a lot of people, but on another time it's not seen as a good idea by the Dems. But in any case, we're going to see how this is going to turn out. Vote. That's all I have to say. Vote. I know what I'm voting for. I'm voting for policy. So I'm not voting for this thing about immigration. Really, I see immigration as being an issue, but I see it as being something that's a problem that's politically created through lack of cooperation. And, as we've seen before, there was a bill up that was in Congress promoted by Democrats and Republicans, and Trump sent out the message to stop it, to kill the bill, so the bill got killed, and you see that the Republican Party doesn't want to just stop immigration. They're openly threatening by calling people that are here legal, illegal. They're not acknowledging their status. So people will be affected by that. Who's gonna work in these companies? I mean, listen. Although I'm a Democrat, it's because of policy. Do I live outside of the U.S.? Yes, I do. Where I live, we have universal health care. Our kids get paid to go to school, university and technical school. Everybody has housing insurance, and most of the industry is unionized, and it's one of the strongest economies in Europe, per person, right? So I know what I'm voting for. You see, I know that the United States citizen can get way more personally out of the social benefits from the taxes, because we pay just about the same taxes. If you add all the taxes up, and you look at them in detail, plus the cost of goods, we pay basically about the same amount of taxes that people in major cities in the United States pay, but people in major cities in the United States get far less out of those taxes. So I'm aware of that. So that's why I'm voting blue. You see, because I understand that. The people that don't want those things, that believe those things are not good or cannot happen in the world's most powerful economy, maybe you should vote for Trump. Maybe you should. That's what I'm saying. But Trump won't change the benefits I have. So just keep that in mind. If you hate a person that looks like me, you won't be hurting me by voting for Trump. I'm just saying, I think American citizens probably would really appreciate getting a little more themselves out of their tax dollars because they pretty much get cheated often, especially by the Republican Party, even though they're good at making excuses about it. So there you have it, folks. I appreciate everybody. I'll see y'all back soon. Appreciate it. Let me see who's in the house. Let me see who's in the house here. Break Room was in the house. Appreciate you. Thanks for coming through, sis. Donnie Williams was in the house, of course. Things Worth Knowing. Wab Funk was in the house. Andrea was in the house, right? Let's see who else. If I missed anybody, let me know. I'll catch y'all on the flip side. One.
With this eclectic organic style, activating your goosebumps and making you smile. It feels good the way the bass and keys flow together. At the same time, it's raining and sunny weather. The beat's popping, the guitar is sweet. Quite unique the way we raise the levels, but they don't peak. Bringing you to another musical orgasm. Moving your fat butt starts to spasm. Don't panic, we take the game to another planet. The earth's getting hot and we still grooving, damn it. The way we think it makes the frequency soothing. At a calm and steady pace we keep moving, cause the movement and information is quite progressive. Dropping the rap in a way you can study the method. We glad cause the mission is to be thought-provoking. Examining how you do your thing, the slogan. You can do what you want to do. It's your life, baby, yes, it's your groove. You know what you know, so show and prove. The way we doing a thing, the game approves. Yes, you can do what you want to do. It's your life, baby, yes, it's your groove. You know what you know, so show and prove. The way we doing a thing, the game approves. Exist in a unique state of comprehension, tranquility, pure lineage, and propriety. I come to put all the false rumors to rest. In doing so, I snatch your heart from your chest and drink the blood and awake the undeniable.